Chapter 13. The Wedding. During the night, Trnt told the princess about all the misfortunes he had suffered because of her love. Then he took great pleasure in telling her about his prosperity and victory, but finally he told her that he felt less glory in any of that than he did in conquering her illustrious person. When she had gathered her strength and her sweet anger was over, she told Trnt about the life she had led while he was gone, and how during this time she had never seen anyone laugh or take joy in anything. Withdraw from all delights, alone in continual prayer, deep in religion because of her love, she had been able to survive until they brought her the happy news of his arrival, and they exchanged many other delicious words, full of loving sighs. The queen, who was responsible for this affair, saw that daylight was near, and she realized that when people in love have some pleasure, they do not think of anything that would disturb them. She got up from her bed anxiously and went to where the lovers were. She told them that since their night had been good, she hoped God would give them a good morning. They returned her good wishes very graciously, and she found them very happy, taking joy in one another. The queen said to Trnt, "Lord of the Empire of Greece, get up, it's already day. You must leave us as secretly as you can so that no one will see you." Trnt would have liked that night to last a year. Many times, while kissing the princess, he begged her to forgive him. The princess answered, "My lord Trnt, love obliges me to forgive you, on the condition that you come back soon, for I cannot live without you. Now I know what love is, and before I did not know." The lady had barely uttered the last syllable of her loving words when Trnt said, "Your Highness will see how short the war will become, so that I, your captive, can wait on you with loving service." And with a kiss of deepest love they parted. The queen took him by the hand and led him through a back door into the orchard. Saying very courteous words, they each went their way. Trnt went to Hippolytus's quarters, and the queen went back to the princess and took Trnt's place in the bed. And there they slept peacefully until well into the day. Hippolytus's happiness was by no means slight when he saw his master and lord Trnt. With the great love he had for him, he threw himself at his feet, attempting to kiss them. Trnt would not allow it, and, lifting him from the floor, embraced and kissed him. They greeted each other at length, for they had not seen each other since fate had carried off Trnt. Trnt told Hippolytus to go to the palace and tell the emperor that he had come and wished to speak with him secretly. Hippolytus quickly went to the emperor and told him of Trnt's arrival. The emperor thought Trnt must have come because of very important matters, and he told Hippolytus to have him come immediately. Hippolytus went to his quarters and told Trnt what the emperor had said. The two relatives left Hippolytus's lodgings in disguise and went to the palace. They found the emperor in his chamber as he finished dressing. When Trnt was before his majesty, he threw himself at his feet to kiss them. The great lord would not permit it, and instead took Trnt by the hand, lifted him from the floor, and kissed him on the mouth. Trnt kissed his hand, and the emperor took his hand and led him to another chamber where he made him sit at his side. Tears ran down the emperor's cheeks because of his great happiness, and because of all the losses he had suffered, which we knew well would not have happened if Trnt had been there. Trnt said, "Most excellent sire, the Moorish Sultan and the Grand Turk have sent me on this mission, which has many conditions that affect your majesty. Since it would be very presumptuous of me to give a reply without the express license of your majesty, I entreat your grace that it be examined carefully in council, and a decision be reached about what is to be done, so that if it should be brought up in the future, I would not be held to blame. The Moorish Sultan and the Grand Turk are asking your majesty for a truce of 3 months, or for longer if your majesty wishes. And if you want a lasting peace for 100 years, they will be happy to form an alliance with your majesty, to be friends of your friends and enemies of your enemies." The emperor answered, "O virtuous captain and son, we hold you in such high esteem and trust that we would have accepted whatever you decided, but to please you I will hold a council on this matter." The great emperor ordered the council to meet quickly so that Trnt could return to camp. Taking his leave of the emperor, Trnt went to pay his respects to the empress and the princess. He found them together in the princess's chamber because she was pretending to be sick, and the empress had come to be with her. The empress was very glad to see Trnt. The princess pretended to greet him coldly so as not to arouse suspicion about what had happened the night before. They spoke of many things, and the princess especially asked Trnt if he had any news about the arrival of the Queen of Ethiopia. Trnt answered, "My lady, 3 days ago I received a letter by messenger from King Escriano. He asked me not to do battle with the Moors until he arrived, and he assured me that he would be here in 2 weeks." The princess answered, "Captain, there is nothing I desire more than to see this queen. I hear that her beauty is greater than anyone in the world." Trnt answered, "My lady, they told you the truth. After your majesty, I don't think of a more beautiful or more virtuous woman can be found anywhere. She has the same desire you do. Her only reason for coming here is because of all the perfection she has heard about your majesty." While Trnt, the empress, and the princess were speaking, Stephanie, Duchess of Macedonia, came into the chamber. With the absence of her husband, she had entered religion and did not want to leave it until that fortunate day when she hoped all her troubles would end. She threw herself at Trnt's feet and cried aloud, tears flowing down her cheeks. Trnt would not allow the Duchess to kneel. He took her arm and raised her from the floor. Then he embraced her and kissed her and said, "I promise you, on my order of chivalry, that before a month has gone by, the Duke of Macedonia and all the others will be out of the prison, and they will be here. That is the sole reason I came." When the Duchess of Macedonia heard Trnt's words, she threw herself at his feet, wanting to kiss them. Trnt would not allow it, and lifting her from the floor, he kissed her again. Then, taking her hands, they sat down and told each other about their past difficulties. While the captain was entertaining the ladies and consoling the Duchess of Macedonia, the emperor called for a council meeting and explained the mission that the Sultan and the Turk had sent Trnt on, just as Trnt had told it to him. When all the council members learned the good news, there were arguments and disagreements among them. Finally, after much deliberation, they sent for the emperor and said to him, "Your Majesty, we advise you to make a lasting peace with the Sultan and the Turk, and with all the other great lords in their company, and with a stipulation that they put themselves in your Excellency's power as prisoners, and they must not be released until they have carried out all their promises, and the other Moors have left unarmed and on foot." The emperor was very happy with this decision, since it was such good advice. He went to the princess's chamber, where he found Trnt, and taking him by the hand, he had him sit by his side in great friendship, and he told him what he wanted. "Trnt, my captain and son, our council has come to the decision we mentioned, so I beg you to depart as quickly as you can to give reply to the embassy." Trnt said he would do as was ordered, and he took his leave of the emperor. He went to the empress and the princess and bade them farewell, and they begged him to do everything he could to liberate the empire of Greece. Trnt replied, "My ladies, may our Lord grant it be done as quickly as your excellencies wish." He took his leave of the princess, and the queen accompanied him to the door of his chamber to tell him that as soon as it was dark he should go through the orchard door and come to her room, where he would talk to the princess. Trnt said he would do as she commanded. After Trnt had left the ladies, he went to Potlas's room to wait for the dark of night, so he could have his heart's desire. Alone and in disguise, when the time was right, he crept softly through the familiar orchard towards the queen's chamber, and there he found the princess, with the queen waiting for him. The princess greeted him with great happiness, and the 3 of them went into the chamber.